What would happen to Earth if every single human suddenly disappeared tonight? Vanished in an instant. No goodbyes, no warnings, just gone. Right now, our world is a symphony of human activity. The hum of traffic, the glow of city lights, the constant construction and deconstruction of our environment. We've carved our presence into the very crust of this planet. But what happens when the conductors of this symphony suddenly fall silent? What would a world without us truly look like? Imagine the scene. It's midnight. One moment, cities like New York, Tokyo, and London are ablaze with light and alive with movement. The next, a profound, eerie silence descends. The first few hours are chaotic. Millions of cars, trucks, and trains, suddenly driverless, coast to a stop, creating silent, unmoving gridlock on highways and railways across the globe. Thousands of airplanes, now without pilots, fall from the sky in fiery arcs, becoming the last violent echoes of our existence. Within the first 24 hours, the automated systems we build begin to fail. Power plants, especially those reliant on a constant supply of fuel like coal or natural gas, start shutting down. One by one, the safety protocols kick in, plunging entire continents into darkness. Only a few, like hydroelectric dams or solar farms, might continue to generate power for a little while longer, but without human maintenance, their time is also limited. The World Wide Web, the very backbone of our information age, starts to fragment and collapse. For the first time in centuries, the planet is almost completely dark and silent at night, lit only by the moon, the stars, and the sporadic fires from downed planes or industrial accidents. Subways flood as the pumps that keep them dry lose power. The world we knew is already starting to unravel. As weeks turn into months, the consequences of our absence become even more stark. The global power grid has now completely failed. The world is plunged into an analog state. Our homes, once our sanctuaries, become tombs for our technology. But the real drama unfolds for the creatures we left behind. Billions of pets and livestock, trapped in houses and farms, face a grim reality. Many will perish, unable to escape or find food. But some will adapt. The cleverer, more resilient dogs will form packs, relearning the ways of their wolf ancestors. Domestic cats will thrive, becoming super predators in the newly silent suburbs. Farm animals that manage to break free will face a world of new dangers, with predators re-emerging from the shadows. Meanwhile, nature begins its relentless reclamation. Without street sweepers and maintenance crews, our once immaculate cities are quickly overrun. Weeds, the pioneers of the natural world, sprout through cracks in the pavement. Within a year, grass is growing on highways, and saplings are taking root in city squares. Wooden structures begin to rot and collapse. The world's 1.4 billion cars become metal husks, their tires deflating, their bodies rusting into the earth. Our meticulously manicured lawns and parks transform into wild meadows. Cockroaches, which many people assume would inherit the earth, actually struggle in many places without the heated, food-rich environments we provided. It's the rats that initially thrive, feasting on the mountains of garbage we left behind, but even their populations will eventually be checked by returning predators. The world starts to look less like a human habitat and more like a post-apocalyptic garden. Fast forward a few years, 20, maybe 30 years after our disappearance. The change is astonishing. The world is greener, much greener. Vines and ivy now blanket entire buildings, their roots prying apart stone and concrete. The streets of Paris are now shallow rivers after heavy rains, and the canals of Venice are choked with reeds. What were once roads are now green corridors, used by deer, bears, and wolves to navigate through the skeletal remains of our cities. Large herbivores wander through Times Square, while predators stalk prey through the ruins of the London Underground. Our grandest structures begin to fail. Bridges, especially steel ones, rust and weaken without repainting and maintenance. The Golden Gate Bridge might last a couple of hundred years, but eventually its suspension cables will snap, sending it crashing into the bay. Dams, under the immense pressure of water and sediment buildup, will start to crack and eventually burst, releasing flash floods that reshape entire landscapes downstream. Nuclear power plants are a major concern. While most would have safely shut down, their spent fuel pools still require cooling. Without power, the water will boil away, leading to meltdowns and the release of radioactive material into the environment. These areas will become exclusion zones for centuries, deadly reminders of our atomic legacy. However, nature is resilient. Even Chernobyl, a site of human-made disaster, is now a thriving wildlife refuge, showing that life, in some form, always finds a way. Let's leap forward 500 years. The world is almost unrecognizable. Forests have completely swallowed our smaller towns and suburbs. Only the ghosts of our largest cities remain. You might see the top of a skyscraper, covered in trees, poking through a dense canopy. The concrete and steel skeletons of our buildings have been shattered by the freeze-thaw cycle and relentless plant growth. Our vast network of roads is almost entirely gone, buried under soil and vegetation. Wildlife populations have exploded. Whales and fish stocks have rebounded to levels not seen for millennia, now that the threats of overfishing and pollution are gone. New species may have even evolved to adapt to the ruins we left behind. Our plastic waste, however, will endure. It will break down into smaller and smaller pieces, but it will remain in the soil and oceans for tens of thousands of years, a near-permanent signature of our time on Earth. After 1,000,000 years, almost every trace of us is gone. The geological and chemical cycles of the planet will have ground our cities to dust and absorbed our pollution. The only evidence that we ever existed might be a strange layer in the rock strata containing fossilized plastics, unusual concentrations of nitrogen from our fertilizers, and the faint, lingering radioactive signatures of our nuclear age. Future intelligent life, if it ever evolves, might dig down and find this thin, curious layer. They might puzzle over what kind of civilization could so drastically alter the planet and then vanish so completely. Our disappearance reveals a profound truth. The world doesn't need us. Nature would not just survive our absence. In many ways, it would thrive. The planet would heal. The air and water would become clean again. The symphony of life would continue, perhaps with new and different melodies. This thought experiment isn't about wishing humanity away. It's about perspective. It shows us the immense power we wield over the planet every single day. And it serves as a powerful, humbling reminder of just how fragile our complex, noisy, brilliant civilization truly is. What we build can be erased, but the impact we have on life itself lingers. Thanks for watching. If this made you think, consider subscribing for more journeys into the unknown.